Welcome to Transnational Competition Law course, and dear learner and viewer. In the last lecture, we discussed with you the nature and concept of the competition law in Israel in relation to the economic competition law of 1988, the economic concentration law of 2013, and the food law of 2014 to reflect upon the fact that how the Israel tried to look at the entire aspect of competition law in matters of enforcement and advancement of the competition remedies. Here we will uh, try to gauge that what is the extent of extraterritorial application of the competition law in Israel, and in that respect we will refer to first examine that the extraterritoriality of the Israeli competition law from the point of view that what is the scope and ambit of the Israeli competition law in matters of transnational and extraterritorial application of competition law. We will also try to see that what is the broad goal post of the Israeli competition law in regulating the market and in restoration and maintenance of the competition in the Israeli economy vis-a-vis the regional and the transnational economy. We will also be trying to locate as to what has been the effectiveness and the efficacy of the enforcement agencies of the Israeli Competition Authority as well as the competition tribunal in matters of extraterritorial application of competition law, enforcement, and advancement of the remedies. We will also be looking at the jurisdictional challenges which are posed in Israel in matters of application of the competition law in the extraterritoriality and as well as from the enforcement and the remedies point of view. We will also be trying to see that how it is essential in Israeli competition law to address the extraterritorial competition law issues by and sharing information and collaborations and trying to see a kind of an international cooperation which can transcend across all the barriers. Let us examine that what happens to be the exact scope of the extraterritorial application of the competition remedies in Israel. What we find, dear learner and the viewer, the scope of extraterritorial application of competition remedies in Israel primarily refers to the application of the country's laws beyond its border. And in that reference, we see that the extraterritorial application of the competition law in Israel well allows authorities to regulate conduct that affects competition within their jurisdiction, even if the conduct occur outside their borders. Thus, we see that the national competition authorities of Israel can investigate and take action against any kind of the anti-competitive practices for the enforcement of the competition and advancement of the remedies. And Israeli competition law as well as the Israeli competition authorities and the tribunal has made great impact on their domestic market regardless where the conduct was originated. In this context, we will further try to examine that as to what are the various facets of the Israeli competition law, especially the extraterritorial application of the competition law and the competition remedies. Here, dear viewer and the learner, we have to see that what is the scope of the extraterritorial application of the competition law, whether it is confined to the Israeli whether it is confined to the Israeli economy, or it is it is try to perpetuate and regulate beyond its Israeli border in a transnational application of the competition law, or the extraterritoriality of the competition law well treat and transcends the Israeli border. That scope, if we examine, we find that, be that economic competition law, be that the concentration law, be that the food law of the Israel, it has all requisite potentiality to apply beyond the borders of the Israel. So, what is the exact characteristics of the competition law which emerges out of the perusal of economic concentration law of 1988, the concentration, the economic concentration law of 2013, and the food law of 2014? We can say that the perusal of all these three laws well and unequivocally suggest that it has extraterritorial application of competition law, and the authorities in Israel can exercise and can regulate any kind of a conduct that affects competition within their jurisdictions, or that conduct happens to transcends outside their border. Then the Israeli Competition Authority and the Israeli Competition Tribunal seems legitimized to apply the extraterritorial application of the competition law. In matters of the enforcement, inspectorate, and directorate, the Director General of Israeli Competition Authorities is empowered under the law to investigate and take all kind of actions against any kind of an anti-competitive practices that have an impact on their domestic markets, regardless of the fact where the actual conduct and its cascading impact and the source and origin and the effect all are to be taken into consideration in enforcement of the extraterritorial application of the competition law, along with having a kind of advancement of the competition remedies. So, in a way, we see that the application of the competition law in Israel, and as well as the extraterritorial application of the competition law, are not free from any kind of the limitations and problems of jurisdictional challenges. And we see that in matters of Israeli competition laws encounter in a large number of cases, we find that there has been multiple countries which are claiming jurisdiction over the same conduct, leading to potential conflict, and the issues of coordinations are coming to the fore. So, how best the Israel's extraterritorial application of competition law are going to subsume these challenges which pertains to the jurisdiction and of the extraterritoriality, and that is something more related to what you can say the international cooperation, and how the Israeli competition law under its ambit and scope have all kinds of the guts and stamina to address all essential aspects of extraterritorial application law issues, including the jurisdictional challenges and how the Israeli authorities seems to collaborate and share information very effectively for the enforcement of the extraterritorial application of competition law and the advancement of the competition remedies in order to in order to combat anti-competitive behavior in transcendental manner or a transnational manner or in an extraterritorial manner. In that respect, what we generally decipher that some of the jurisdictional challenge arise over the issue of the enforcement and the potential conflict of interest and how that potential conflict of interest are to be reconciled, and whether there should be some kind of an international cooperation or something have that is bent upon the collaborations and the committee principles, or or what you can say, the sharing of the information and the capacity building to see that the extraterritorial application of the competition law well goes beyond the domestic jurisdictions of the Israeli economy and the country to transnational and extraterritorial application of the competition law. In that respect, what is important here to look at primarily the functions of the Israeli competition authority, and the Israeli competition authority in that respect, we see that what the law prescribes, that we have to look at the section 51, section 14a subclause B, section 14a subclause 2, and section 15a subclause 2 of the economic concentration law of the Israel passed in 1988. We see that the Israeli Competition Authority policy paper on resale price maintenance and arrangement, and we also look at the Israeli Competition Authority's draft amendment to block exemptions for exclusive distribution or the franchisee. Whatever has been the rules, notification, guidance, and manuals which has been drafted by the Israeli Competition Authority, we first look at as to how the section 14a, 14 subclause A subclause 2 happens to set some of the interpretations of the public statement of the Israeli Competition Authority. We have to also look at how section 15a subclause 2 happens to provide a kinds of a determination of block exemptions rules, and how it tries to interpret the entire sections and entire powers and entire functions of the Israeli Competition Authority, and having the force of the law of section 14a subclause 2 and section 15a subclause 2, we try to see that the Israeli competition authorities have been a very powerful organization, be that the director general or be that the competition tribunal. Taken together, the entire mechanism of the enforcement of the extraterritorial application of competition law in the Israeli jurisdiction have witnessed evaluation of all kind of the respective arrangement, and to see that how they determines the block exemption rule, that is something setting the nature, the course, and directions of the extraterritorial application of competition law in transnational manner, in advancing the transnational manner and the advancement of the competition remedies. Here we have to see that how the Israeli competition authorities have made significant contribution in arresting the harms to the competition, and then how it has served the legitimate purpose or legitimate requirement for restraining all kinds of the trade which fulfills the legitimate and illegitimate purposes of the arrangement. In essence, we see that the Israeli competition authorities have broadened the block exemptions and included a self-assessment regime under the strength of Article 14, Section 14A, subclause 2, and Section 15A, subclause 2. We see that the Israeli Competition Authority have in right earnest have passed a large number of decisions to giving effect to extraterritorial application of the competition law. And here we can refer to the Israeli Competition Authority's decision with respect to MBI Pharma for excessive pricing. We can also refer to the other case on the point happens to be Gaffney versus Central Bottle Company Limited, and the other important case from the standpoint of view to look at the very functioning and the effectiveness of Israel Competition Authority is the Tunova versus Noor and Noor versus Tunova. Both the cases, either side on the appellant and the respondent. And then we should also look at some of the ratio and the rulings of the Israeli competition authorities in RLFI Agriculture Limited versus Man Truck and Bus AG and others. And then lastly, the Zalika versus Tunova. So a perusal of the MBI Pharma case, the Gaffney case, the Tunua versus Nor case, and RLFI Agriculture Limited versus Man Truck case, and Zalika versus Tunova cases of the Israeli jurisdictions clearly spell out the range and and the conspectus of the competition remedies which are brought to the fore by the Israeli Competition Authority on the mandate of Section 14A subclause 2 and Section 15A subclause 2 of the Economic Concentration Law of 1988 in matters of the enforcement and in matters of advancement of the competition remedies, besides the law which happens to be the Economic Concentration Law of 2013 and the Food Law of 2014. Thus, we see that whatever happens to be the corpus of law which has been handed down by this legislature in matters of competition law, and then it's the enforcement part and the substantive law as well as the procedural law, and the enforcement part through the rampart of the Israeli Competition Authority as well as the Israeli Tribunal, and the cases and the catena of cases which it has handed down well suggests the Israeli competition law have very effectively applied the extraterritorial application of competition law and advancement of competition remedies. And we find that the Israeli jurisdictional example on the competition law serves as a better guide to look at the entire issue of the transnational competition law. With this, dear learner, I conclude and I wish you a happy learning.